Hello everyone, as usual it's me Pavlo, and today we'll be talking about the contents of this stylish black box. And it's a Muse HiFi M5 Ultra headphones amplifier with Bluetooth connectivity. Really interesting device. It can be connected via USB Type-C or via Bluetooth. It supports LDAC codec for the high resolution Bluetooth sound transmission. But the most interesting part, of course, is that it's built with Radeon Gen 6481 vacuum tubes. Muse HiFi spent a lot of efforts to properly incorporate them into a small portable device. They thought about heat dissipation and mechanical dampening schema. Also, they've worked with ESS engineers to create the special version of 9038 Q2M DAC. Actually, later in the video I will call it 9039, but it's a mistake. And they created really interesting, good-looking device that features two types of sound. Price is $300, and I will add links to the Hi-Fi Go shop in the description. So let's have a closer look. Overall presentation is done in a luxury style, but it's a well-thought luxury with all small nuances fitting into overall picture. So box is made of interesting material. It has pleasant texture, reminds a bit velvet with horizontal stripes. It was wrapped in plastic, of course, but I removed it. On top we have a foam insert to protect the device during the transportation, and it's overall really tightly fitting into the slot, which makes sense to avoid any possible damage. And also you can see this message about Gen 6481. And here is a drawer with accessories. So let's see what we're getting here. Leather protective case, which can be handy for many cases, especially for those who want to protect the device. Overall nice blue leather case, well stitched and good looking. And here goes regular USB Type-A to USB Type-C connector for charging, and if you want to use it with your laptop or desktop PC. Then you get two cables, Lightning and USB Type-C, and adapter from USB Type-C to USB Type-A. Cables are really of high quality, with strain reliefs, with pretty reliable connectors, and with fabric insulation to provide additional durability, average in flexibility. So overall, as you can see, everything is really fitting together and looks nice. Design also looks great. It's made of aluminum with tempered glass on the back and front panel. Of course, glass gather fingerprints a little bit, but they are pretty easy to wipe. And of course, also glass, of course, means extra fragility, but to minimize it, you can use the stock leather case, which will protect it pretty nicely. And in this case, actually, case also looks pretty nice. I can't say that it hides the beauty of the device. And it feels really good in hand. It's built really solidly. Nothing is shaking, nothing is rattling. Of course, one of the main design elements is this window on the front panel. You can see a lion's share of device internals. And here on the side, underneath this grill, are located these giant tubes. When you turn them on, you can see this faint glow. And also here is the microphone that you can use in the Bluetooth mode. Also on the front there is a small LED screen, and all buttons are located on the right side. So here is on-off button. It also locks buttons and turns screen on and off. volume control, memory, and also navigation through the menu. On the bottom, there are two outputs, single-ended and balanced, and two separate ports, one for charging and one for data transfer, which is really handy, so you can use it with your smartphone without draining the battery. Also what I can say here, it supports quick charge and power delivery, and built-in battery lasts from 8 to 10 hours usually, depending on the load. At least it's the numbers I've got in my tests. Screen looks flickery on camera, but of course it doesn't flicker in real life. It shows resolution, it shows selected mode, and a bit of extra information. So you press this M button, it toggles between different functions that you can change. So first is USB and Bluetooth mode. You toggle it to Bluetooth mode and it's waiting for the connection. Then gain, low, medium and high. Then few digital filters, and last setting is mode. TM it's transistor mode, and VT is vacuum tubes. If you select VT mode, tubes starts glowing and you can see it on the side. It holds Bluetooth connection pretty well, up to 5 meters of reliable connection even in LDC mode, so I think it's a pretty decent figure. You can see lamps, tubes glow from this side too. So overall, really well-built device with reasonable controls. Sonically, it's a really straightforward device. It delivers exactly what you expect from these components. Muse HiFi says that they worked together with ESS to create a special version of their 9039 Q2M chip that will work in the optimal way with these vacuum tubes. But in the transistor mode, it sounds exactly like vast majority of other devices based on this chip. Clean, crisp, detailed, with perfect control. But thanks to the good tuning, sound is not too dry or too analytical, too clinical. It's still pretty engaging overall. And with tubes, you getting that additional saturation with a bit of weight on the low end, with more emotions and more highlighted vocal on the mid frequencies, and slightly softer but still detailed treble representation. But probably let's talk about everything step by step. Of course, for critical listening, I used the USB connection as it provides higher quality. But actually, with LDAC codec in the Bluetooth mode, sound quality is also pretty decent. Here, for the demonstration purposes, I will use Bluetooth connection, but it's just for demonstration purpose here. So, bass goes to maximum depth, it's well controlled, it's detailed in the transistor mode, it's fast with a noticeable amount of small nuances and details, and when you activate the tube mode, actually it shifts a little bit from being more impactful to being slightly more weighty. It's still pretty detailed with great texturing, but not as impactful and fast as in transistor mode. So both options are really engaging and really pleasant. And when I was doing tests, I listened to many tracks in both modes simultaneously, and honestly, I can't say that I prefer one of them because both are really good. So Casey Abrams, Nature Boy, it's all about double bass. And here, of course, tube mode sounds more exciting, more engaging. It saturates sound with additional weight, with that additional sense of woodiness, if I can say it this way. And overall, it sounds even more natural than in real life. Probably sounds double bass, but still, it's really well-defined instrument, and it's separated perfectly from the vocal and accompaniment. And the second example, it's Roundabout by Yes, famous track, especially for those who like JoJo, and with engaging bass line, but at the same time, bass here is prominent but not dominating because there are a lot of other instruments. And here is an example where probably transistor mode sounds a bit better because bass stays a bit more separated from the other instruments, and it's easier to focus on this virtuose bass line. But with tubes mode, it's also pretty pleasant, slightly more highlighted, and also sounding kind of engaging. Mids are neutral in transistor mode with really nice imaginary stage. It's not super big, but pretty spacious, both in width and in depth, with good depth layering. Not super critical for the quality of records, but definitely showing small nuances, but not boosting them or over highlighting. So nice balance between monitoring and musical representation. And vocal instrument sounds clean, clear, crisp, with good dynamics, but without much highlighting. In the tube mode, you getting more focus on that second harmonics, more focus on the emotional part of the sound. Vocal became more velvety, more saturated with small nuances, and some instruments too. But for the instruments, it's more depend on the record, I'd say. With some records, you getting this effect, with some less. Imaginary stage became bit narrower, but vocal moves a bit forward, giving you a slightly more intimate representation. First example, it's Jordan Rakei, Wind Parade. This track is full of different instruments. It can be used for bass testing because bass line here is nice. Also, it's saturated with treble, but I selected it because of the vocal. And both in tube and transistor mode, vocal sounds great with perfect control, and you can just select what kind of representation you prefer. Slightly more, even I don't know the correct word, not laid back. You can prefer more forward vocal in the tube mode, or more blended in the overall melody and overall mix in the transistor mode. But both are really nice. And Magnum crazy old mothers, for me Magnum is a bit associated with 80s sound, despite this track being from 2016, if I remember correctly. I still prefer them in the tube mode with a bit of additional weight, with a bit of emotions highlight on the vocal, on this epic orchestral part. So tube mode here is more preferable for me, and it sounds really engaging and emotional. Treble is linear, well extended. In the transistor mode, you're getting like clean, crisp, without any coloration, without attempts to being overly sharp or overly analytical, but at the same time playing exactly what is present in the record. Layering is somewhere in between basic and average, which is pretty decent results for this price range. And the overtone saturation is really nice. But when in the record there is something harsh, it can be represented as is. In the tube mode, you reduce a bit of that harshness and you a bit highlighting overtones in the treble area. but they sound more saturated, but at the same time slightly softer. Also, matter of preferences here, to be honest. So first one is Delta Lady by Joe Cocker. For the vocal, of course, I prefer tube mode because it highlights that nuances of the vocal. For the treble, which is pretty saturated here because of percussions, I prefer transistor mode. So I listened to this track like 4 or 5 times in different modes, and both are pretty fun. And Danny Elfman, bells and whistles. Probably here I prefer transistor mode a little bit more because it's an orchestral track with lot of nuances, with lot of instruments going to the treble area, and they all definitely benefit from the more natural representation of the treble. When it comes to the pairings, it's a pretty universal device. From one hand, it has a nice black background for the sensitive IEMs. I tried with Bluetooth connection, I tried with USB Type-C connection, and also I even tried with M5 attached to my smartphone and making calls. I didn't get any interference, but probably for the phone, I suspect it can depend on the wireless network band and phone model. So my experience was absolutely clear, but I can't guarantee that it's that for 100%. And for the full-size headphones, actually I didn't find power listed anywhere, but roughly estimating, it's more than enough for the sensitive and medium sensitive full-size headphones. It's not created for the high impedance models or power-hungry planars, but power efficient planars, it was able to drive properly from the balanced output without any issues. Probably there is not much sense in doing any compressions because main feature here is tube mode, and I didn't test a lot of devices with tubes recently. So basically, if you like this idea of having two representations of sound, and if one of representation is tubes, here is a really good implementation of such sound in the portable form factor with USB and Bluetooth connection, and for the pretty reasonable price. So, interesting device. I definitely recommend you check it out. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and have a great day.